Well, hey, mamas, Jessica here. We are moving into, excuse me, our next part, our next school supply, spiral notebooks. So I want to hear from you, mamas. Has your teen a spiral notebook user? Is this something you will be buying this year? Is it on your teen's maybe school supply shopping list? Let me know down below if that's a yes or a no for spiral notebooks. And the reason I ask is that I am a tutor and the CEO and founder of Ace Cookie Tutoring, and I have seen a lot of notebooks, a lot of students using these well and also losing them. So that's why we are talking about this today. Now, I do want to invite you to set up a strategy call with me. So if you'd like to see how I could help your teen love to learn, how I could help your teen actually learn how to study, go to my website, fill out that form, and we'll find a time for a quick free strategy call. So now that you've told me what's going on with spiral notebooks when it comes to school year 2022, I want you to know that there are all sorts of spiral notebooks out there. Okay, there are these ones, which are 5. I believe there's also 3, and then there are also these single spiral notebooks. Now, I will tell you that there are some amazing things about these notebooks and some not so amazing things. So number one amazing thing about these bigger ones with the 5 is that this could potentially hold all of your teens' notes for all of his classes, which is awesome. It's very convenient, one place. But like I mentioned yesterday with the big binders, what happens if your teen loses this big notebook? That means everything's gone. Everything. So that's kind of concern number one. Second concern, and this is something for me, since I am a note taker and all the students I work with, I encourage them to take notes. And it's part of my program is figuring out, okay, how do you take notes? Should you take notes? And, how does this going to work for your learning style? But getting off track here, good, bad thing. For me, bad thing is that these bigger notebooks, there's not as many pages in each section. So there's these cool little folders a lot of the time, which is very handy. And this one actually doesn't even have a folder. It just has the piece of paper. Some of them do have the folders. But just know that everything's in here. This gets lost. Your teen has no notes. And then also using this one notebook for all of his classes, well, when your teen runs out of space and hits that pocket, hits that page like on this one, well, then where do the rest of the notes go? Because if the next section is dedicated to another class, well, then now your teen's either going to mix his notes or he's going to have to get another one of these and again have his notes in 2 places. So it's just not a good idea to have one of these bigger notebooks for all of the classes. Okay, so definitely want to hear what your thoughts are on this, see what's worked for your teen in the past. If you have a middle schooler, high schooler, or even college student that's used one of these, did it go well? Did it not go well? Now, something that I encourage more that works better for all the students I've tutored and have worked with as a substitute teacher is to instead have multiple subject notebooks for the entire year, and each notebook is dedicated to one class. Okay, because that's what's cool about the individual notebooks is you can do it for one class, and that way you don't have to worry about mixing different classes together, losing notes. And like we mentioned before, with the 3-ring binders, if you do the smaller ones, unfortunately, if something happens, this gets wet, this gets left behind somewhere, well, again, we're only having to refine notes, replace notes, materials for one class instead of all of them. But I think I went off on another tangent here. I get excited about school supplies. I know a lot of people love office supplies and school supplies. Yeah, they're kind of office supplies, but I don't know. I love, this is part of my favorite time of this year. It's just the fact of, okay, what do you use? How do you use it? Why should you use it? But a good way to use these multiple subject notebooks is that each section is for a different part of the class. So definitely we need to take some notes. Notes meaning whatever that might mean for the teacher. And like I said, that's part of what I teach students. and vocab, diagrams, important places, important things. All of that goes in the notebook, but then we can break that down into like maybe a vocab list. We could break that down into questions per section, per chapter. We can really personalize this notebook for your teen, and that works really well in a multiple subject notebook. Okay. Now, before I move into more thoughts on spiral notebooks compared to loose leaf paper, compared to composition notebooks, I want you to know that I'm live on Facebook and I'm live on YouTube. So if you have not become a subscriber, if you have not become a follower, I highly encourage you to hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, so you always catch these videos live, because you won't get notified if you're not a subscriber, if you're not a follower. So talking about loose leaf paper, there's wide rule, there's college rule. That is a personal preference. That also will come down to your child's age. A lot of the time, the younger the student, the bigger the margins, bigger the spaces per line. So definitely that's up to you, to your teachers, to your child's preferences. But something I will say about loose leaf paper is that I always encourage students, if they're going to have a notebook and they're going to have loose leaf paper, to use loose leaf paper for those times the teacher's like, okay, everybody take out a piece of paper. Do not have your child rip out paper out of the notebook. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one is every page ripped out of a notebook is an opportunity lost to keep the notes together, to use it for other things. The second reason is that a lot of teachers do not like these little perforations. So you all are probably very familiar with this. I don't know if you can see, but there's perforations, and then there's those little bits that get left behind. I've had experiences at a college student that a teacher, if you had those little extra bits on your paper, you just ripped it out of the notebook without, making it the perfect straight edge, he would not accept your homework. And in fact, he would actually just throw it away. No matter what it was, and like I said, we were in college, he wouldn't take it. So that is another reason, because I know that I have family who are educators as well, and that's one of their biggest complaints is the messiness of students using notebook paper out of a notebook instead of the loose leaf paper. Okay. And very, very final thought here that I want to bring up is I've had students tell me, okay, well, should I use a spiral notebook or should I use a composition book? And I don't have a composition book here to share with you, but those are the ones that have usually the black and white kind of marbled covers. They're the ones that have the binding on the edges, not the spiral. And those are nice for a couple reasons. Number one is they don't have the spiral part. So unfortunately, these get caught on things. Students love to pull on them. They get really pokey and stabby. And, I've seen a lot of bad things done with these when students get bored in class, or they're, just not using their materials correctly. So composition notebooks don't have that problem. But one of my problems with composition notebooks is a lot of them don't have the perforated edges. So even if you want to pull out pages, it's not very easy most of the time. Another issue is that the paper is small. Like it really is. You get to choose between college and wide rule, but literally just the length, top to bottom of each page is smaller, so they're a lot easier to fill up. And I've never seen, as far as I know, a multiple subject composition notebook. So definitely, if you asked me, I would choose spiral notebook over composition. But again, for those, hey, let's do an activity in class, or when a friend of your teen says, hey, do you have a piece of paper I can borrow, which really means, okay, you have a piece of paper because I don't have one, always encourage the loose leaf paper. So I hope this helps. I do want to know your thoughts. Is your teen using spiral notebooks? Is he not? And, if you want your teen to be using spiral notebooks and he's not, well, then let's talk. That is a personal preference. It also comes down to learning styles, and that's something we can dive into when we meet. So definitely thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the link in the description so you can go to my website, fill out my intake form. It's really easy, really quick. Just ask you a couple questions about day and time that work best for you, and we'll get a free strategy session set up so I can meet you and your teen. We can talk about my program, Love to Learn, and how I help teens actually know how to learn, how to study, so they can enjoy school and enjoy learning. So thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow for a video all about writing utensils. So do you really need those fancy pens, those fancy mechanical pencils? What writing utensil does your teen need to be successful in school this year? We'll talk tomorrow. Have a good night.